Excellent. So I'm not looking directly, I'm looking over at another screen here, but so you should be able to see the community risk assessment with the town of Georgina's 8 communities up on your screen. So this portal is our inside portal. This is the portal that we use in the education department, in the inspections, training, and all of our call data. Everything really comes into this portal. Mike, Tanya, Kaylee, all have access to it so that they can, if they need some additional information, they can go in here. This is not open to the public. This is our inside portal. We do have some of this information provided on our webpage, and I'll show you that at the end. So when we are looking at the town of Georgina, we had to look at how can we provide information and not blanket or just paintbrush the whole community. If you looked at the community overall, our top 3 risks of fire are smoking, cooking, electrical. Smoking, cooking, electrical, right? It's what we hear all the time in those communities. However, when we broke down the town of Georgina into 8 communities, it's different, definitely different. So every map that you see on our portal is interactive. So when we divided up the communities, 8 in total, we can click on any map and it's going to provide us information. In this map, it's going to show us what is the name of the community and who is that community captain. Now for 2023, this is the community captain layout. However, in 2024, this section will rotate and this section will rotate. So 1.4D will be going down to 1.4A area to change. So every captain in 4 years, very broad but clear view of the 4 communities in their call area and what those top 3 fire risks are. The community risk assessment and community risk reduction plan was presented to the OFM on January 4th. It was stated at the time by Deputy Fire Marshal Beckett that it met and exceeded legislation requirements. So it is built on the 9 pillars that have been provided by the OFM. When we scroll down a bit more, now we're going to actually look at the communities more in depth. I'll just click on the first one, which is Keswick South. When we open up Keswick South, you'll see up on the top here, they're all listed so you can toggle in between any of your communities. It then provides to you just a brief synopsis of the community. What is in there for retail, restaurants, the schools? What is the housing? Any large buildings? Future development is also listed. And again, an interactive map. When we click on this map, it's actually going to provide to us the causes of fire from 2019 to 2022. And they're all listed here. And yes, you are reading one. It says intentional raccoon bomb. It's a true story. That is the cause of one of our fires. And actually, just a few weeks ago, we had our second raccoon bomb fire. So is that a trend? We're hoping not. So that will show all of the fires for from 2019 to 2022. We'll continue to scroll down, and this is when we're going to start looking at these infographics. Infographics are fantastic. They're like really quick snapshots of information. Now, where did we get that information? When we created the polygons for each community, we then had to take the census data from our latest census that just occurred. We have to cut it and be able to put the information that pertains to that polygon from the information from the census data. That's a little tricky, but it is doable, especially if you have a GIS expert with your town or municipality. And this was all done in-house here. We dropped that data in, and this is where you get your info. Now, infographics are created through another program in Esri, in ArcGIS. It's called Community Analyst. So once you do have your census data, you can create infographics. They're not easy to make. However, there are templates that you can choose from. These we made ourselves. And these templates will be available this summer. I'm going to be sharing the templates with ArcGIS for any Ontario municipalities who want to create them without having to reinvent the wheel. So we look at the population, how many households are there, what is that median income, and our population's at risk, education, and how many homes are under 20,000 income. So that gives us a brief overview. Also tells us how many homes are owned in this community and how many are actually rental. This is key information. It's going to change a lot for our response because we know in this community there's 138 multifamily households. That means that there are grandparents, parents, children, and possibly now younger children can have 3 or 4 generations in the same house. That's going to change a lot when we do our response. Now, how do we know where they're located? Because of our census data and because it's all postal code, and Mike will be able to show you later how we were actually able to focus in right on a specific street when we're going out to relay our fire safety message. It will also provide you that information. We see sheeted mapping that shows us the areas where multifamily households are actually in this community. The next is our key planning indicators, and this is a lot where we're actually starting to create those programs. This infographic looks a bit different. It will show us what the languages that are spoken in this community, our senior population, and then population under the age of 65, and prison segments. Now, I won't go in a lot because I know Mike does want to talk about prison segments as well. However, this is key when you're building those messages out there and those educational programs, is knowing who your audience is. So how do they learn? Where do they eat? Where do they shop? And I'll let Mike go more into detail on those in his presentation. Our top 3 languages in this community is English, Cantonese, and Mandarin. Our top 3 buyers are electrical, cooking, and smoking. There is a senior population of 1,601 seniors in just Community 1. 287 over the age of 65 live alone. That's a great community partnership to start thinking about, and we're very excited. We know we have 1,547 seniors in the town of Georgina that live alone over the age of 65. We started a community a community partnership program. It starts on Monday with chats, and we now have more bodies going out into those residences. And when they do have a smoke alarm or CO alarm issue, they have their own QR codes that they can scan. Message goes directly to a chief officer, and we can deploy the crews right away to go to that address. So that is one of the programs that we've built just from some of the data that we've already received through our community risk assessment. Community Captain Project, Mike has spearheaded and has worked diligently along with assistance from Tanya and Kaylee to get this program rolling. We have 8 community captains because we have 8 communities. I'm going to let Mike talk more about it, but each community captain and the messaging is specific to the community that they serve. And we built all of our messaging so that the community captain, when they're out there, they can engage with those residents and speak directly to the risks in their community, essential information. When they are out there, just at a, any types of events, these are the top 4 items that they should be talking about. And school age, when they're out in the schools, they should be speaking about these messages. So again, each one of the communities is built the same way going across. Now, if you recall, early in when I spoke, I said cooking, smoking, electrical, right? Those top 3. But just for kicks and giggles, we're going to go over to Belhaven Ravenshoe because it's not the same. When we broke down the top fires in this community, we can click on the map. We can see here the top causes of fire in much smaller amount of fires in this area. And when we go down, the top 3 causes of fire in Belhaven Ravenshoe are batteries, wood stove chimney, and open air burning. None of the top 3 that we've paintbrushed over the town of Georgina are listed here. So that's just by creating that, we've learned so much about our community. The next tab is our town of Georgina overall. These infographics, they talk about Georgina in, the whole Georgina together. It's going to give you your population, some key indicators. This is a really great snapshot of Georgina where it says how many households we have. This has already increased by 700 already this year. Visible minorities, what the average income is. We have our labor force, our university, and we are projecting 52,888. We are already past the 50,000 mark now since our last update with our census data. And then we continue on. We have some more demographic profiles. Interesting, mostly everyone spends money on food and then mortgage rent. And this is our building stock currently in Georgina, and it meets the pillar where we need to list what our building stock is. And then we also have to do fire comparisons between the town of Georgina and the province of Ontario. And we have the data for 2019, 2020, and 2021. Once the OFM has provided the 2022, then we would provide it here. Our community-wide response tab. So this is an interactive map where we can look at our calls. They are broken down. If we were to look, we use Firehouse, we wouldn't be able to put every single call in here to show heat mapping because it wouldn't show it as well if we just put heart or heat stroke or anaphylactic shock. So we put them all under medical. You have hazards, open air burn, rescues, fire, and MBC with pre-fire conditions. So if we were to look at the first one for 2021, here's our heat mapping to show where most of our calls are. And then in 2022, doesn't really change a lot, right? It's pretty similar. My favorite is open air burn. And this is where we can really show education and its importance. When we look at 2021, if you look up here in Rush Point, Willow Beach, we have a very high heat mapping for open air burning. This is unauthorized open air burning where crews have attended. When I came back as deputy fire chief last summer, we did a blitz in 2022 to have the crew go out and blitz this area with open air burning and on the bylaw and education. I'm going to show you the 2022 map. Keep your eye on this heat and watch it as it goes down. right there, we've already been able to represent a result in what education does. And the crews were able to, fire prevention provided them with all of the educational materials, the area that they were to attend, and we see a difference already. The next map, as it loads, is our inspections for 2022. And this is giving, again, a heat map of our different types of inspections that are conducted. This is the overall, and then if we click on each one, it'll break down so that we can see where the inspections, investigations, licensing, plan review is huge. I'm sure you'll all agree. Lots of plan reviews out there to do. Request, our short-term rental, pretty much all along the water's edge, and then our vulnerable occupancies. I'll speak more on our vulnerable occupancies on the next tab. So our pre-plan, love this area. This is our higher risk areas. Now, when I built this, I built it with the 8 polygons, so our 8 communities, and I did an overlay on it of our risk of flood, because in the event we were to have any flooding and we were to check to see, for instance, if we have any senior living group homes in a high risk flood area, that we would know that. Again, interactive maps, if we click on any of these, it's going to tell us what the location is. This one here is Perry's Place. It has a number of beds, 4. If I go over to here, this is actually the condo club. This is over at 18 Pete's Lane, and it has 26 units. So each one of them would be broken down by either beds or by units. When we look at schools, this one is interesting. And what was really important here is that, again, it be interactive, that we be able to provide to the responding crews, if they have a call here, to let them know you're heading to Lakeside Public School. There is 1 individual in a wheelchair. There are 370 students total with 40 staff. It's grade 1 to 8, and that is the primary phone number. This information is provided on CAD as well. So we can push this over to the crews. This comes up as they're responding, so they know. If they were to go to this school, there's 6 wheelchairs in this school. Now, the information needs to be updated annually. So there is an alert that I placed in my calendar to make sure that we connect with all of these schools and just see if there's any changes in persons requiring assistance or in student and staffing levels. Our marinas, this is actually one of our public education events that we are doing out in the community this summer. There are 1,447 covered slips, not just covered, but slips in total in the town of Georgina. We've had 2 substantial fires, one actually being in March of 2020, where we lost 14 boats. So Tanya and Mike have been assigned marinas that they will be going out and conducting public education in those. Our railway hazards. So we have a railway that runs straight through and joins in with EG. And so what we've done is we've looked at the top 10 hazardous materials that are actually traveling through Georgina. These top 10 are part of the training program that's provided to the first responding crews. They are aware of these 10 goods that do travel through, and what to do in the event that there is a train derailment. Our critical infrastructure map is a lot of fun, especially if you get to play with it on a tablet. I'm building this for emergency management. And so what it does is here it's showing everything. Again, 8 communities, flood risk plain layer, and then all of our critical infrastructure. And we can turn these on or off as we want to. Now, if I was on my tablet, I would turn everything off. And let's say we had the unfortunate event of a tornado coming through, and we are told where that tornado is roughly. We would be able to, with a stylus or our finger, draw a line going across the map, roughly where the area is, replace all of our critical infrastructure onto the map, and be able to zoom in. Once we've zoomed in on the right-hand side, if by chance, let's say it's over here in a residential area, once we've zoomed in and it shows the path of travel on the right-hand side, it will also provide every address that was hit by the tornado: residential, commercial, and critical infrastructure. So it's a great tool, and hoping to have this up and completely running for emergency management as well. This is a specific map created for our FPO. This, again, an interactive map highlighting all of our dry hydrant locations. These have been assigned to our front run trucks. They will be conducting the testing on these private hydrants this year. Once the data has been collected and we click onto this map, it will then provide us all the data after the testing is done. The next is our weather map. I am in the process. Mike probably saw me working away on a layer there this morning. We are very fortunate to have been working. Georgina's been working very closely with Esri and ArcGIS, the US counterpart, and we now have Environment Canada in Esri. So we'll now be able to change our mapping system. So it's not going to be the US that provides us the weather patterns. It's actually going to be coming from Environment Canada. If anybody wants, as you're starting to build this, if you choose to go this way, just let me know and I can just send you the layers. You don't have to worry about making it. I can just send you a quick attachment and you can drop the layers in yourself. This is a widget that was put in here for the town of Georgina weather. And this one, you can't see it right now, but that is because it is our snowplow, and we're not running snowplows right now, right? Thank goodness. What's great about this is that we named all our snowplows this year. And in doing so, on December 23rd, we had quite a large fire on Old Shiloh Road. And Chief Jenkins asked me to contact roads and get a snowplow and a salter over to this area. I opened up my community risk assessment. I opened up my snowplow map, and I could see it was, I think the name of it was Snowy McPlowface. And I was able to radio directly to Snowy McPlowface and ask to have that truck come over. It was the closest one to our fire. So it was perfect. In less than 5 minutes, we had a snowplow there and a salter. And that's the results of having this live data. Now, what do we do with all this live data? Because there's a lot of data coming in. We have Home Safe Home, short-term rental, community captain, in-service inspections, now chats, all working from the QR codes. These QR code cards are all in our front run trucks. Well, they're in all our trucks now, actually, because we had the volunteers out at a call this week, and they completed the GFRS Risk Data App. So all this information is coming in all day long. It's coming in. We see it on our dashboards. We have TV screens. There's one in fire prevention. There's one here in my office, the other chief offices, captain's office, and at Station 16, so that they can see together as a unit what's being done out there in the community. So let me show you a bit of what we're collecting. and it's under our engagement tab. So this is our risk reduction dashboard. This is the dashboard that we have on our TV screens. Everything that happens out there is coming back in here. So to date, we have 209 total HomeSafe homes, 29 short-term rentals. We have 111 community captains and 9 total engagements. It's going to tell us homes that are compliant and not compliant, how many homes that we got into. If you take no entry, not compliant, and compliant, and you add those together, it equals what you have here. And then how many smoke alarms have we installed, combo alarms installed, and batteries. This is how many people that we've engaged with all of our engagements to date. This is who we've engaged with. When we look at community captains, we also want to know, are they getting good positive interactions when they're out there? Is it just door knocks, right? And we're leaving info. So now we know 69 of these homes had info left, but 42 of them have actually had interaction with the captain and the crew and talking about their top 3 fire risks or what that messaging is for that community. In-service inspections. So the crews have been assigned 82 in-service inspections this year for 2023, and as they complete them, it will do a total here. In addition, any of them that have any violations and they require a re-inspection, it would show here. We've reached out to 11,545 homes so far in the town of Georgina with some type of fire safety messaging. The dry hydrant inspections was just assigned this week. So if we were to look at 90 and 111 for our engagements, it then feeds the next dashboard, which is all about our engagements. So 211 engagements. Of those 201 engagements, of those 111 are community captain, and the other 90, well, what are they for? What are we doing up there, right? So we've broken that down as well. After the fire blitz, school visits or drills, station tours, community events, recruitment, and then unscheduled. Now, unscheduled could be somebody coming to the station asking about open air burning or smoke alarm. That would be what that would entail. So it's giving us that really quick snapshot of what we're doing out there in the community for public education. All of the crews are then, when they're out there working and they're scanning their card, all that data is coming into this main dashboard, telling us how many, what their percentage is. And I'm super proud of them because HomeSafe Home and Community Captain only started on May the 1st. And we have captains that are out there engaged with, 34% done of their workload already. So kudos. And then what we do is we don't share the overall dashboard with the crews. We give their own individual. And it's important to show them that not only are they out there in the community, but what is their interaction rate? So we break it down even more. For instance, in this particular 1-4A, when they're out doing HomeSafe Home, they've gotten into 23 of their 82 assignments. And so they've got 28% done. Of those 23, they were able to speak to 5 of those residents. So right now they have a 22% hit rate on actually having a conversation. If I look down here at the community captain, they have done 19 of their 153 that they've been assigned. They've been able to get into 7, right? So just have that interaction with that resident about the top 3 fire concerns in their community. So they're at a 37%. So each one of our captains has their own dashboard created for them. So they get to see the impact that they're doing with the education out there in the community. The next is our call down. This dashboard is breaking down just Home Safe Home. Now we do have them go out and do straw, the short-term rental, and part of that short-term rental is a Home Safe Home. However, we know if they want to be licensed to be a short-term rental, their smoke alarms are going to be working. They're going to be, up to snuff. So we don't think that that's really a valuable number to add in. We are just looking at Home Safe Home. Of those, 42 are compliant, 35 not compliant. And again, we don't have to add anything here. We don't have to use Excel sheets or anything. Everything updates automatically from the use of this QR code. As soon as they hit submit, all of these dashboards, their numbers change all on their own. They don't need assistance from anyone. And to date, unfortunately, we are sitting at 45.45 non-compliant for smoke alarms. It tells us how many we've gained entry into, how many are no answer, refused entry, and vacant homes. And so all of these numbers, when we add them together, it should give you your 209. And that tells you that, your data is coming in, it's coming in correctly. In-service inspections. So right now, we've had 2 in-service inspections completed for 2023. Now our other dashboard showed 7, but that is our numbers because they rolled from January 1st. But the new assignments for 2023 actually start on April 1st and end on March 31st. These are our actual numbers for the current program. We've had 2 in-service inspections done for 2023. Both require a re-inspection because we have violations. What's really great about this is that if we have somebody go out today and conduct the in-service inspection using the QR code, once they hit submit, if there's a violation, it will pop up on its own. It's already created behind the scenes. It's just waiting for its first violation. And then if it's test records for something else, it will show up on this screen. This is our call data for the first quarter. 2022 was a bit of a weird year. It's pretty high, those numbers. And actually, when I was speaking with Chief Jenkins, 2018 was also a very strange year. But we can look at our call data, and it will give a percentage here of either we are for 2023. If we look at our 2021, we're over by 11.5%. However, we're down from 2022 with 12.5. My favorite is over here on the right, of course, because this is our fires. And in our first quarter of 2021, we had 20 fires. In 2022, we had 15. And this year, 11. So we can see that we're less than minus 45% from 2021 and minus 26.7 from 2022. The next dashboard is our inspections, again for Q1. And when I was creating this and I looked at it, I thought, okay, why are we down? Like we're showing we're doing less. Now, in the first quarter of 2022, we weren't really out there that much doing inspections because it was still the land of COVID. And we actually didn't open our doors and go out into the public to do public education events until May of last year. So inspections were higher. Now, public education here, inspectors are active all the time events, and that would show the difference in those numbers for sure. The last one is our training. It is under it's under construction, so it doesn't look very pretty right now. So what's being done for training is the chief wants to see all of the training that's being done over the year by platoon to see if everybody is keeping up with what's been assigned to them, either online or in-person training. And so that will be a new dashboard that will be available so that we can follow along and make sure that the crews are meeting their training assignments. So that will be a new dashboard. So what does the public get to see, right? They don't get to see all of this fun stuff. This is what we get to play in all day. But what they do get to see is when they do go to the town of Georgina's website and they click on Fire and Rescue Services, they can go down to Community Risk Portal. This is very similar to what you saw on the very first tab, and it is our Community Risk Assessment Map. And what I did here was I took those 8 communities and created a polygon that when it's interactive for them, so when they click on their community where they reside, it's going to give them the top 3 causes of fire from 2019 to 2022. Any of the communities, they can click and they can see what their top causes of fire are. Now, what do they do with it from there? Well, they can go down to their community, and for instance, Port Bolster said that their top 3 causes of fire: smoking, barbecuing, and open air burning. So if they wanted to learn more about barbecuing, they can click on that link and it will bring them to our barbecue safety. They can go back and community captain. So they're going to know that in Port Bolster, Pepperlaw, Port Bolster area, the community captain's been assigned power outages and emergency planning kits. But if by chance they didn't get to talk to anyone when the crews were out there, they can click, and all of that information that's being provided from that community captain is also available to them here on our website. That's a really quick flow. How long did I take? Okay, a little longer than I thought, Mike. Anyone have any questions? I guess it's open to questions. Is that right?
There was a question in the chat, actually from Shannon here. How did we obtain, excuse me, how did we obtain the school information? Does the board provide it, or were the staff actively obtaining the information from each school? And if so, do you get any resistance from the school in providing that information?
Perfect, yeah. So I actually contacted all the schools while I was creating the map for the school and all of the data. I had no one refused to give me the information. Actually, they were very open to providing the information and excited to know that we were going that in depth with our information for the crews. So yeah, it was just 17. I don't remember how many schools now. I'd have to look at my Excel list, but I just went through and I just called each one, asked that pertinent information, those few simple little things. They provided it all to me. I updated my Excel sheet. I append my data inside my mapping here in ArcGIS, and done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the other question is, can we clarify the QR code use more? I think I have some of that information in mind, but Deputy, if you want to discuss it a little bit.
Sure. So where does a QR code come from, right? We know that we can make those on any web page, but since I still have my screen open here, let me see if I change my screen. Hold on just a second, I gotta go to the right screen.
I do have it open on mine if I can share it after too.
Going into my ArcGIS. Do you see, did the screen change, Mike?
Yeah.
It did, perfect. Okay, so how do you create? You can see here when I'm inside now my behind the scenes portal, and there's lots of things you can do. When you looked at the 8 communities, all of those are built on storyboards. I showed you our hub. That's our live portal hub that we created. And then we put support on that. We put our dashboards and we make it all through here. These are all types of different solutions. One of those is Survey 123. So when I spoke to you about Home Safe Home, the straws, Community Captain, our GFRS risk data app, they're all created on Survey 123. Once it's created in Survey 123, then you pull off a QR code. There's a QR code that's attached to it. That QR code is then scannable. It'll pop up the survey. They answer all the questions related. They call it Survey 123. It's really creating apps is what you're doing. And then once they've completed the information on that app and they hit submit, the data is then pushed over to us. There's a behind the scene item that's also created for our Home Safe Home, our straws, and that's called Power Automate. So when the crews are out there doing a Home Safe Home, they ask the resident, would you like a copy of this? In-service inspection is also the same. It's attached with Power Automate, which means that any information that we've collected from them is put into a really nice email format, and it gets emailed to that resident or to the property owner of a in-service inspection location. So the QR codes come from Survey 123 in a really long explanation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't see any other questions in the chat.
Sorry, Mike, it might be
Yeah.
easier for me to say this than to ask
Sure.
it. And
Yeah.
you might have this info in your part of the presentation, but the QR codes that the crews are using, is it a specific QR code for each crew or community captain, or is it one QR code that is the same for everybody? I'm just wondering on the back end in those dashboards that we are seeing, there's the overall numbers, and then there's the crew specific numbers. How is that information coming in and being separated?
You want me to take this one, Mike?
Sure. I have some of that, but yeah, you go for it, Deputy.
Okay, so there's one QR code for Home Safe Home. There's one QR code for in-service inspections. The GFRS risk data app, that QR code covers Home Safe Home. It covers everything except in-service inspections. That's the best way to put it. Now, and it's the same QR code for all the captains. However, how I built the dashboard is that you can tell that dashboard to pull for that specific captain or acting captain under their platoon. So it just pulls the data for them, and that fills that dashboard. Honestly, when somebody finishes one Home Safe Home, it actually affects 7 different dashboards. But it's one QR code.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, excellent. Thank you so much, Deputy, for taking time out of your day to present for our group. I mean, we've been using it for a little bit, but I thought it was a really great resource that I think a lot of people could benefit from. I found it's very easy. I know our crews have, so I hope a bunch of you out there can take some away from what Deputy Zwicker has created.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'm going to stay on and just be a backseat observer.
Perfect. All right. So yeah, I guess I'll get into a little bit about the community captain and what our crews do. So let me just share my screen here. All right. So my name's Mike. I'm an inspector and public educator here in Georgina. I'm also the treasurer for this OAFE group. Deputy Zwicker and I have worked together for quite a long time, back to our years back in Toronto. So It has been a while, and we both ended up here, which is pretty awesome. So along all that information that the deputy has created with our community risk assessment, we have put into, we've created our community captain programs. And, oh, let me make sure this works here. There we go. Screen's up. Perfect. So a little bit, we'll talk about the program a little bit, the areas as the deputy you spoke to, when we collect data, what's on the trucks. So what our crews use, some tools, some tips, some handouts, some identified risks and calls. So those heat mapping, and then the special project itself, and then some data entry. So the program combines Home Safe Home, Community Captain Project, our public engagements, and our dry hydrant inspections. It's all captured under this one QR code. Provides captains and crews with information and tools to educate the public and spread the message of fire safety in their communities. And as the deputy discussed, not just doing that blanket messaging. Let's give them something specific to their neighborhood. I think after COVID, a lot of people have created this, well, what about me? What do I get? What is, and we're trying to personalize that message. And the community captain is our way of doing that. Information is collected and updates in real time on those dashboards. It can track trends. We can see, our compliances with smoke alarms. It allows us live up-to-date data all the time. We have divided the town into 8 different communities, and each platoon is assigned their own. We try and get any public education event that comes in, we try and schedule it with the, oh, that's why it's not working here. Slideshow. There we go. That's what I was looking for. That probably looks better. Oh, is it? I apologize here. Let's try this again. From current slide. Oops. From current slide. Share screen. That's what we want to share. All right, that's what I was looking for. We attempt to schedule everything with the community captain for that area. I mean, if stuff comes in on a specific date, then obviously we can't. But if we can, that way, the captains and the crews become very familiar with their specific area. And I mean, then the residents get to see a similar face over and over again. And it's building that rapport, building the relationship with our residents. So those are the 8 communities as we saw earlier. This is Georgina, for anybody that doesn't know, kind of on the shores of Lake Simcoe and the most northern part of York region. And our communities are very different. South Keswick, the purple, is very suburban, lots of subdivisions, lots of homes. But then you've got places out by Eudora, which are a ton of farmland. And so, I mean, the people, the building stock, the hazards, completely different from what you might find in South Keswick to over in Pefferlaw, Bolster, which are mostly cottages. We collect data. So in our app, we divide it into these 7 different items. So unscheduled interactions. I mean, many of you are out there, doing inspections, doing education. Your crews are out at the grocery store. Maybe they get stopped after a call, and we call those unscheduled interactions, when we just kind of run into the public in some type of way, unscheduled. Station tours, our community events, so like a few on the screen, we've got our open house, we've got the Sutton Fair. Recruitment, anytime we go out and specifically speak about how to be a volunteer here in Georgina. There's the community captain project, so we'll talk about that, the school visits and drills, and after the fire blitzes. So anytime we have a fire, we send our crews out to that area to educate that area and make sure that we've got working smoke alarms in those homes. So what's on the truck? This is our community captain toolkit. So these have been placed on our 2 front run trucks, and the crews are able to go out. We've given them a second home safe home kit so they can go on either side of the street and get into those homes. There's also handouts and brochures. We've created speaking notes to, I think we've got up to 25 different topics of fire safety items or just life safety items. And we've given them speaking notes from the NFPA desk reference so that on the crews, in prevention, we're all speaking the same language from NFPA on what we should be saying. We've also given them a handout, so it's always great to have that interaction with the public. But you know, sometimes if we can give them something else, because sometimes they get home and they forget that information, at least we can hand them something. And to remember it too, we've got some swag in there too, because there's always got to be that fun, that buy-in. So I mean, we change these all up. Our crews check them every morning. If there's anything that's low, they send us, it's all on their truck check on their target solutions that we use. It'll send us an email and we can get them whatever it is that they're missing. We can get it sent out to them so that these are always up to date. If they ever go to a big community event, you know, these are for those little unscheduled interactions here and there. If they go to a big event, we'll provide them with the information in there. In there too is also information regarding each specific community. And we'll talk about those. So the big thing is the binder. So in the bottom portion with the brochures and the handouts is a binder with all the speaking notes that I discussed, and then all of these items that Deputy Zwicker spoke about as well. So a little bit about their community, those key planning indicators, the top 3 causes, top 3 languages, what their specific community captain project is, some items to talk about, some items if they go into the school. It also talks a little bit about so what kind of people we have in these communities. People that choose to live in subdivisions might have they have different ways of taking in their media, different ways that they listen to authority, where they get their information. It all is going to be very different than, say, farmers who are out on 1,000 acres by themselves, and their next neighbor is the next farm over. How they take in their media is going to be a lot different than someone from South Keswick with where they're very up and into social media. We've got to take a different approach to try and reach these residents that are out in the very rural areas of our community. So that's what's in the binders. Those are what we give out to the crews. It's just all information, no matter where they go, they kind of know who the average types of people they may run into, how they're going to take in that information. Some area that's maybe a little lower income, we're not going to discuss going out and buying new smoke alarms and the newest and best items because we know the funds aren't there to do that. So let's not speak to that. If we have an area of mostly seniors or people that live by themselves, we're not going to speak to, say, family and having young kids at home because that doesn't relate to them. This is all information so that we can get that buy-in from our residents so that we can try and relate with them, talking to items that are important to them. So the project itself is, as Deputy Zwicker said, is instead of blanketing the messaging, each community is very different, as we've seen with our community risk assessment. Each community contains different types of residents. Each type of residence takes in different information and takes it in different ways. So we don't want to try and personalize that information. And we've created a specific handout for each project within the community captain communities. And what we do is we go door to door with the personalized education and trying to educate those residents on items that they have requested, or based on our call data on those heat mapping. Let's talk about something. Let's just not talk about cooking everywhere. Like we'll still look at our top causes of fires when we go to these community events. This is something on top of that where we go in and let's have a specific risk-based conversation with these residents. So I just brought up a couple different examples. So this is community 1, which is South Keswick. All these dots are from surveys we received from our last open house. So we received a lot, even though it was in Sutton. This is in South Keswick, which is another portion of our town. And they requested information on home escape planning and emergency preparedness. So they came, you know, the theme was home escape planning, but they wanted more information on it. So, okay, what we did is we dug down into those detailed maps, found streets surrounding these dots, and assigned the community captain for community 1 specific addresses and streets we'd like them to go to, and provided them with an information card that was along with the made with a York region. So one half is on emergency preparedness and the other half is on home escape planning. And along with the speaking notes from our binder, our crew can go out and have that one-on-one conversation with these residents about something they have requested. So what do I want? I want more home escape planning. All right, well, we're going to give it to you. So while we're there, we'll also discuss smoke alarms. We'll discuss carbon monoxide alarms. If they want us to test them, we still can. But the main conversation we're having is that home escape planning in this community. Now, community 3, this one was based on our calls. So the majority of our calls in this area were for open air burning. So the heat map that you see, we took addresses in that specific area and discuss, and we're going to send the crews in once again, and they're going to discuss open air burning. We have a pamphlet made up or a guide for the town of Georgina, and they're going to go out there, they're going to have that handout, they're going to talk about it. In this area, it's a lot of cottages, so could be transient. But hopefully we can get that information in there. And as the deputy showed from 21 to 22, you know, that blitz, that education does make a difference. So if we can do that some more to still reduce these number of calls, you know, we can take our information or we can take our services to other types of calls. Now, community 5, also a very unique one. This is our Sutton and Jackson's Point area. The most number of calls that we ran there were actually water rescues. So, I mean, this is where I talked about life safety. We are, you know, an all response service. We are very unique because we do have Lake Simcoe in our response area. So we do have a couple boats, one for the winter and one for the summer or the warmer months when we're out there. And we work very closely with YRP. So we're going to go into this area and we're going to discuss water safety, boat safety with these residents. And, you know, the hot spots are going to be along the beach. So we kind of chose addresses in these areas again. And we're going to go to these neighborhoods and we're going to talk about water safety. So not just, oh, the fire department's here to talk about cooking again. We're giving something that we know there's a problem. We know based on our call data, this is what we have going on. This is what we're going to go speak about in this community. So it changes from community to community. There are, so the Belhaven Ravenshoe and our Baldwin Egypt Eudora, those are mostly farming areas. So there's a lot of distance in between. And they are in the more rural areas of our town. And so, I mean, response, it's going to be tougher to get there. It will take longer just based on where our stations are located and where these residents are. The density is very low, but the hazards could be very high. There's a lot of farming equipment, a lot of flammable combustible materials. There's a lot of hay, there's livestock. There's a lot of different kind of hazards that they may have out there. So for those communities, we're sending our crews out and they're going to discuss fire safety from the point of farm safety. So home escape planning, you know, the importance of how to smoke safely, you know, to the amount of combustibles that build up on a farm over time, to reducing those levels, or just reminding them that, you know, a smoldering cigarette that we all know can cause a large fire. They kind of forget because, you know, they have so much going on their normal day-to-day lives running their farms. So we're going to go out there and address something specific to those residents. While they're out there, they'll also be checking smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms, and promoting that home escape planning. But it's that the fire safety from the farm side of things, electrical, smoking, home escape planning, the amount of combustibles. So what we've tried to do is every community come up with either based on our calls or based on information that they've provided, come up with something unique and important to those residents. So all of our information is gathered and collected with a easy to use QR code. Entries with these QR codes, as Deputy Zwicker mentioned, can be made by suppression, prevention, administration, and our volunteers too. So they're in all of our trucks. All of us in prevention have one with our name badges, and this information can be entered anytime that we're out in the community. The trucks all have cell phones and tablets on the truck, where they're able to interact with the public when they have that interaction. So they can scan it there. It brings up the app, and then all of the information gets put in there. And as Shannon asked, how, one of the questions is who is completing this? So I could pick Mike. We can pick one of the captains depending on what the interaction is. And that way it can capture all the data. It is connected to that captain and then can update those dashboards. And the nice thing is we can capture the trends. We can see if there's a request for more information. And as I mentioned before, this percentage of homes with working smoke alarms, we can see, are we getting in? Aren't we getting in? Is there an area that crews are going to and they find, there is no compliance with the working smoke alarms. Okay, well, now we'll go do an education blitz there on the importance of it. As opposed to looking at a master plan or a CRA that, is a 5-year term, we now have information that is within seconds uploaded into this. And over a week's time of the crews being out there, we can now tackle that problem that they may be seeing. So I'll just show a couple of, I have a couple things I'll show you over here, just to show you kind of the difference between all those different prisms. Share my screen. This one, screen 3. So in here, you see family mode. So this is from our South Keswick location. This is one of the types of residents that are here. This gives a percentage to all of Canada, but it also talks about they're very family oriented, family driven. They like to do a lot of activities together. How they think. These mostly 3rd generation Canadians, so are open to diversity even within their own families. But you can see that on the left it says cultural diversity is low. So I mean, it's all just different information on to give our crews, to give our educators when they're out there. And then this kind of information, what they like to do, where they like to shop, where they take in their media, what they use on the internet, what's important to them financially, where they like to eat and drink, what they drive, social media, health, mobile. If we go to, say, this one, so this is happy medium. A little bit different when we scroll down here. Where they shop is a little bit different. Their leisure activities are different. This is from one of our communities, more in, I believe this one was Willow Beach area and Rocher's Point. So up there, more cottagey, less suburban. So their types of activities, ATV and snowmobiling, watching TV, oldies. Where they kind of eat is a little more, just your average restaurant, your nice family restaurant. They're not looking for your nice gastro pubs. So depending on where you want to reach your residents, now we can take this information and we can also advertise in that specific area to try and capture their interest. So you saw stocks and bonds, but over here, mutual funds, RSPs, group life insurance. So lots of information, some of it maybe not required on the suppression crew or whoever's going out to speak, but or maybe some of it just we don't have to use, but a lot of great information on here on what your residents want and how they'll take in that information from you, so that you can personalize that information you give them. This is one of the cooking tip sheets. So these are all the speaking notes from NFPA. This is in the binder as well, just so that we make sure that we're all speaking the same language. What they should do if they have a cooking fire. We've got cooking safety. And if they talk about it, we just put items at the bottom, their cooking safety handout. There's one in the folder, and swag 5. We just name it that, just because if I tell them exactly what it is and then I change it, now I got to make new forms. So, but we just say, hey, there's something in swag 5 that in the toolkit that they can use to give out if they talked about cooking safety. So there's lots of different ones. And then as Deputy Zwicker showed, they also have the same information on their community. So a little bit about it, where it is, the infographics, are they mostly seniors? Are they younger people? Are they educated? Have they university or college, unemployed, employed? And then the types of people, who owns, who rents, is all available to the crews too. So if we're going into an area, we'll talk about ownership maybe in this one because we've got 80% of people that own, but another community that may have mostly renters, well, then we're going to talk more about the landlord responsibilities and the tenant responsibilities. So we can change, we can fine tune our messaging depending on where we are in the community. And then I believe I did have one more to show. So that is the data app, as Deputy Zwicker mentioned. When you scan it, date and time, depends on what we're doing. All of this can change. So depending on as you enter in different information, they've created it so that, of course, new drop downs show up. And then, we complete who did it. This is how we can capture where it goes into those dashboards. So a lot of background information, but that is essentially our community captain, all the way from our digital CRA and our portal that Deputy Zwicker spoke about to what we give to the crews. And when they're in that dashboard, they can pick Home Safe Homes, they can pick community captain project, they can pick a public engagement, they can pick a dry hydrant, and then the questions correspondingly change to what they want, to what kind of information we need. And it's just a fill in the blank, super easy to use. They're very happy with how it works. What we used previously, there was always issues. So, this new one seems amazing. Any questions about what we spoke about?
There are a couple, Mike.
Yeah.
First off, thank you to yourself and Deputy Zwicker for sharing this program. There's clearly a lot of work that went into this, so thank you very much for sharing that. Maybe you've thought about it, maybe you haven't, but is there kind of next steps for you guys, or where you see this program going, or more you want to do with this program now that it's kind of been implemented? Or have you not got there yet?
Oh, that's when Mike gets scared. Because I come in and I say, Mike, I was thinking. And when that happens, Mike's like, no. So what we're doing now is we're collecting all that data. It's by the collecting of the data that we'll know what else we need to expand on. So we are 5 months in to strong data coming in, and we already see trends. We already, one of the things that Mike touched on is the community partnerships. I cannot stress to you enough, if you have the data and you can represent that data with a community partner, they will eat it up. We have so many new community partnerships right now, more than what we've ever really had, where they are giving us funds. They are providing us with printing materials, and they're saying, sure, like you're meeting a risk and it's relates to us. So sure, okay. One of the community partnerships we're working on is, they're, with, larger companies who are coming in and saying, sure, yeah, you have the data, you are showing us exactly what's going on in your community. This is what we will do to help. So we're very fortunate with that. And Mike is 100% right. The crews are so happy with this program in comparison to what they had before. We haven't heard a bad thing yet. So I think that's a good sign. Now, there was a question here that said, community one example, how did you know that those surveys were from those addresses? So great question. And you're 100% spot on. We asked for your postal code. Now in the town of Georgina, there's over, believe it or not, there's over 1,000 postal codes. And sometimes one of those postal codes could relate to just 3 or 4 houses. So that's how deep you can get into the data. When we went and chose Community One's project, we actually could see right down to the street level which houses were asking for that data. So yeah, if you're going to be using Survey 123, last question, you don't have to ask for their email address. It's nothing personal. Just say, what's your postal code? Okay. And it's amazing what you can do with a postal code nowadays. So move the next steps. As you saw, I'm creating another new tab for the training part. This is, if you saw the December video, there's 200% more in the CRA. The CRA in that video only had 2 tabs. And now we're up. So that's how much it's grown. So this is going to continue to grow.
Awesome.
So go ahead, Brianna.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say thanks.
I was just going to ask, so the data is coming in live, obviously, from your community captains, and how often is it being updated from your calls and your heat mapping and that type of stuff? And if that information is coming in and constantly changing in terms of your top 3 causes and what your educational messaging is for your communities, how often are those going to change? Or will you be reviewing that kind of on a regular basis or a couple times a year? What's your plan for that?
Yeah, great question. So community captains will have their new educational material, their messaging will be every May 1st. So we won't be changing it on the fly and saying to them, okay, your top 3 causes have changed. It would take them right off balance. We don't want to be crazy, right? However, if we find a trend, then we'll use the community captain and we'll put an extra program in place. And we'll say in a specific area, 50 houses, we want you to blitz these houses because there's a trend going on. So they are aware that if you saw our previous Home Safe Home, they have a lot less assigned to them this year than what they've had in previous years. But we want specific, valuable messaging, right? Not the knock on the brick. You know, here's it, like this, and they actually take ownership of those messages now because they don't feel like they're just going out and just no. They actually are speaking specific to their community. So I see that buy-in. I don't know if Mike sees it. I see it sitting here. Mike works more in depth with the crews. So I'm hoping he's with a nod of his head, he's going to say, yes, he's getting the buy-in. Perfect. The Q1 data that you see for inspections and all call data, that information would be updated quarterly. We would just append that data in there. But everything else is that if somebody was to scan right now, it would update in it's 2 seconds.
There's another question there, Deputy, about approximately how much this cost.
Oh, yeah. So that's a tricky question because a lot of people are not going to like this answer. It costs $58.41. Not kidding. And I had to pay $58.41 because we did not have community analysts as part of our ArcGIS program. So I had to ask Esri to download that into our organizational portfolio. And that cost me $58.41. The rest was just time. But everything that you see that's been created, there was $226 for the toolkits. And then our swag is our swag that we normally do. But to create what you saw here, this live portal and all of the surveys, dashboards, everything, $58.
And how do you work with the Esri licenses for your staff?
Perfect. Yeah. So myself, I am an editor and creator with the Esri ArcGIS. So between myself and Jacqueline, we are pretty much the orchestrators of it. We're both in-house here. We run it. Our IT department, only if I really make a big boo-boo would they get involved at this point. All of the other staff, Mike, Tanya, Kaylee, the chief, they all have what's called a viewer. They can't do any editing or anything like that, but they can view everything that's inside of that portal. Every municipality has, depending upon the size and what your license is, you could have up to 100 names you could put in there and users, and everybody has a different use classification. So we have all of pretty much everybody here now has acceptability to be a user as a viewer with a username.
And those usernames are like their specific username, or is it, Captain 1A, 1B, 1C, or is it tied to their actual name?
That's different.
Okay.
So anybody who has access to the portal would be the office, admin staff, fire prevention, public education. They have their own sign. The trucks, all of suppression and volunteers, they don't need a sign in. All they need is the QR code. It's open. It's an open portal so that everybody can add information in without the requirement of sign in. So no sign in, because if like anybody who's out there working with the crews, the moment they have to remember username and passwords, you're done, right? You're done. So why not just alleviate that? Just remove that stepping stone. All they got to do is use their phone camera or their tablet camera, scan that, answer the questions, hit submit.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions from anybody other than me who's been bombarding?
I don't see any in the chat, Shannon.
Okay, perfect. Then we will wrap it up there. Again, Brianna put the link in the chat. That's for the feedback. And once you hit that submit button on the feedback, it will give you the link to request your certificate of attendance if you would like one for today. But we do ask that to take just a couple minutes to complete the feedback so that we have that information and we can pass it along to Mike and Deputy Zwicker as well, because I'm sure they would appreciate knowing your thoughts on the presentation. So I will say thank you to Michael and Deputy Zwicker for the program that you've put together and the work that you've done to make it happen, and B, for coming and sharing with us today. I see some comments coming into the chat about the excellent work, and thank you. I would imagine that you'll probably be fielding some phone calls or some emails from some of the people on this call in the next little while. So thank you to both of you for your time and your work and making this happen. I know a lot of time and energy has gone into it, and it definitely does show. So thank you very, very much for this.
Thank you.
Um,
Anyone can reach out if you are interested and you want to start the steps to doing this. All you got to do is just make that first step, and that's send me an email, and I'll get you on track. We have some municipalities that are already doing it and are starting to build it. So reach out if you want to do it. We'll make it happen.